entirely AI and cameras. Just like our brain works, which is neural nets and eyes. Yep, just slow down for a speed bump, which is cool. And just slow down for another speed bump. And we did not program in. There's no line of code that says slow down for speed bumps. So it is doing this based entirely on video training.
Yeah, I went around the bicyclist.
Yeah, and there's a bicyclist. Again, there is no line of code that says give clearance to bicyclists. It is just doing what people do. It can read signs without ever being taught to read. Once again, there is no line of code that says stop at a sign or wait for another car.
Who came first or whatever.
Or who came, there's not like wait X number of seconds, nothing like that. Nothing. This is all nets, baby. Nothing but nets.
What happened yesterday was stunning to see, and Tesla stock investors all over the world are raving about this. Robert here says our world changed tonight. Stephen Mark Ryan says this is a watershed moment. Elon says that it blows his mind. Even Sawyer, who usually doesn't really give his opinion, said so much mind-blowing stuff. Elon claims nothing is hard-coded, no coding to turn or stop at stop signs, and it is just doing it. I haven't really seen Bradford be this bullish. Tesla is on the path to solve autonomy now, and there are no barriers. It's over, it's done. This will change the world because you just feed the model more data and it just learns. You don't need to do anything really other than just have quality data, and Tesla has by far the most data, quality data. What Elon Musk said yesterday about Tesla's full self-driving is really exciting me because I think Tesla's full self-driving development is going to accelerate because Tesla no longer needs to program every single little thing. Tesla no longer needs to say, when you see a stop sign, you have to start slowing down 3 seconds before the stop sign, and you don't need to put a lot of these, if this happens, then do this. If you see a car, then stop. If you don't see a car, then go. You no longer need to program it like that. You just feed it a lot of data, video data, and then it just learns. It just knows what to do. During the live stream, Elon drove a Tesla Model S, which was on hardware 3, so not hardware 4. FSD would have to be retrained for hardware 4 because the data is not completely compatible, as the photons are different. Omar though says it is not an issue. They can upscale the existing dataset. I hope that's the case, but I'm not fully convinced. But if full self-driving is solved relatively soon, we will probably see it first on hardware 3 and not on hardware 4. Elon also said during the live stream that you just need to send a picture of yourself and the future robotaxis will be able to recognize you. So James shared his picture. Elon also just said that Tesla will spend $2 billion this year on training compute, and that Tesla is about to turn on a $250 million 10,000 unit NVIDIA H100 GPU cluster. That's a big cluster. And now I will go through the rest of today's Tesla stock news, and there is some very important news, so make sure that you pay attention. And then after that, I will come back to this clip and I will show you the highlights of it, so that you don't need to watch the entire 45-minute stream, which at times was very boring. But there are some very important moments from this clip, so I highly suggest that you watch the entire video. Tesla has decreased the starting price of its 2-hour Megapack commercial energy storage product without installation by 22% to $1.46 million from $1.87 million. Tesla's 4-hour duration variant received a similar discount. And now you can get a Megapack as early as next year in the second quarter, although you can choose a later date if you want as well. We know that Tesla is ramping its Lathrop factory, and that increased supply perhaps is forcing Tesla to cut prices. But also we know that Tesla recently switched to LFP batteries. So it could be that Tesla is making more money now with these new Megapacks that only use LFP batteries compared to the old Megapacks. Let's also not forget that lithium prices dropped a lot. However, I don't think Tesla would just drop prices just because they were able to cut the costs. Because if demand is there, why cut prices and make less money and have even longer wait times? That wouldn't make sense. So either something seriously changed in terms of how the wait times are calculated, and maybe it was always like this, it's just that Tesla is displaying this officially and publicly now, or what I think is the most likely explanation, because Tesla is making so many more megapacks, there's just not enough demand at these prices. But I don't see this as a bad development, really. Tesla is probably looking to lock up market share and sign long-term contracts to secure feature supply, utilization. The post-installation service and software revenues from every installed megapack is high volume, recurring revenue that will pay dividends for 20 years. I think Tesla is playing the long game here, says James, and I agree with that generally. If you remember, Tesla just lowered prices of the power trunk retrofit in China, but there's still no sign that it is coming to North America. Tesla will start selling cars in Argentina next year, but it will use a slightly different model that is not really traditional for Tesla to use. Tesla will actually use an importer, and Tesla will basically sell these cars, my understanding is, to something like a dealer, and then that dealer will then sell these cars. This is translated from Spanish to English, so maybe there's something lost in the translation, but the exact words used are bring the cars to dealers in Argentina. Seems like Tesla is not bringing the Model S at first, but probably it will eventually, so it will start with the Model 3, Model X, and Model Y. It's interesting that they are bringing Model X instead of Model S first. I would think the Model X is much harder to repair than the Model S because of a lot more technology and the doors. So that's an interesting choice. Also, Tesla will train operators from Argentina in the US. The EV market in Argentina is not big. In 2022, a total of almost 8,000 hybrid and electric vehicles were sold. So we are not talking about big numbers here. Eventually, I imagine Tesla will open official Tesla showrooms, but that will probably take a little while. In the meantime, I welcome this. But the people that will be buying these cars, if they are bought through dealerships, they may not have the best experience. But they will end up with basically the best cars. So in the end, I think it's better for consumers to at least have that option, even if they are going to have a hard time with dealers. But it looks like they will be paying a lot more than Americans. For example, the base price for the Model 3 will not drop below $60,000. So they will pay about 50% more. Whew. But at least they will have that option. There was a lot of confusion happening yesterday, and all of this was started by Reuters, not by Kevin, but Kevin tweeted here, breaking Tesla cuts price again, which they actually did not. All Tesla did yesterday was include gas savings into the displayed price. You can still display the price without the potential savings, but if you click on potential savings, yep, it will show you everything right here. But Tesla displays this price, which is after savings, which include the federal tax credit and gas savings, but Tesla does make it pretty clear that this price includes all of these savings. So I say this bad news actually turned into good news, because I think it is better to display the price after all of the savings, because in the long term, that's actually the price that you will be paying. And it just makes it easier to compare a gas-powered car to an EV. Drive Tesla Canada is reporting that the first V4 supercharger is now working in the UK, and you can pay with an actual credit card in person. It also has a CCS connection, so any EV can charge there pretty much. And you just tap with your credit card when it's time to pay, just like that. Done. Someone posted on Twitter that they saw a refreshed Model 3, but actually I am quite confident that's just a Model Y, but with aftermarket taillights. There's a good point from the Tesla economist here. The Model 3 factory in Shanghai has more square feet than the Model Y factory, yet Model Y has much higher output. We are roughly talking about twice as many Model Ys than Model 3s. So yeah, I think the Model 3 output could be increased by a lot if needed after the refresh, especially if it is going to have gigacastings. Are these refreshed Model 3s? I mean, they are all covered, so it's really difficult to tell, but is it possible? Yeah, I think it's certainly possible, but we just don't know. The picture quality is a bit blurry, but if you see anything that would prove it, let me know. Woowa overall has a pretty good track record, so I think it's probably true then. Looks like we have a Giga Mexico drone operator. If you like to keep up with the latest updates and you want to see the drone footage, you may want to follow this account. This is nice. On the newest FSD beta version, the side repeater blind spot camera images are definitely brighter and cleaner. And this is with hardware 3, I assume. Here's another good use of a Tesla Mega Pack to minimize the impact of a scheduled power shutoff. This utility company deployed a mobile Mega Pack system paired with local solar infrastructure to power critical community services and facilities in California during this shutoff. Dan Ives just put out a research note in which he says that Tesla's supercharging network will account for $10 to $20 billion in revenue by 2030, which he thinks would be equal to 3 to 6% of Tesla's total revenue. If we assume that the margin is going to be maybe just a little bit over 10%, just from charging alone in 2030, Tesla could generate roughly 10 to 20% of net income that it generated in 2022. So it's not really a lot, but if you are planning for the worst case scenario, every little thing like this counts. And now the rest of the video will be highlights from that FSD live stream that Elon Musk did. Enjoy.
So here we are at a roundabout. So roundabouts are obviously pretty complicated.
It's waited for those 2 cars.
Yep, it just waited for those 2 cars to go and then did the turn. Again, I'm being somewhat repetitive about this, but we have never programmed in the concept of a roundabout. We just showed a whole bunch of videos of roundabouts. So a lot.
A big fleet helps.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need a lot of training data, a lot of video training data in order to make this work. So you need really billions of dollars of training hardware, and you need to know how to run the neural net training hardware. So it's not like easy, but the mind-blowing thing is that there's no heuristics. There's no like lines of code. Like there's a guy on a scooter. It doesn't know what a scooter is. It doesn't know what pedals are. It's literally just been given a lot of video. And it's doing all of this on hardware 3 with about 100 watts of inference compute. So it's not like, obviously, it's not some like massive data center. And if we were offline, there would be no difference. This is locally, all the inference that's happening is local. It does not need an internet connection. And obviously that's necessary because if you lost your cellular internet connection, the car needs to drive safely. But we could be somewhere where there is no internet connection. It's never seen the roads before. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, we're running at the full frame rate. So it's taking 8 cameras at 36 frames per second. Yeah, the pure AI version runs faster than the version that is a mixture of normal software and AI. In fact, it would run it faster than 36 frames per second, except the cameras are currently only capable of 36 FPS. Our current, back of the envelope frame number is, we think it could probably run at 50 frames a second. Reality for the roads are basically designed around 24 frames a second. Hello, assassins, if you want to get me, now's your chance. You just need to be in Palo Alto. Like the assassin count is low in Palo Alto. We've got test drive, FSD 12 test drivers around the world. So we've got people in, I think, like New Zealand and like Thailand and Norway, Japan,
everywhere. Because you should generalize. The concept of driving is general. You don't need to just do it in the US. You could do it everywhere simultaneously.
Right. Exactly. Just like a human can go travel to a country they've never been to before and rent a car and drive around and be, maybe not quite as good as someone local, but you can still rent a car in a foreign country and drive around. And we just have like some students over there that one of them stumbled briefly into the road and the car drove around them. Yeah, so here we are at a roundabout. The car is you know, I've never been to this roundabout before, and the car is not specifically trained on this roundabout.
Yeah, and then once it's our turn, and
So-
it just proceeds.
Yeah.
No frills.
Exactly. So it waited for the correct amount of time, drove smoothly around the roundabout. Again, I will be somewhat repetitive, but there is no line of code that says this is a roundabout. There is nothing that says wait, X number of seconds, which is what we have in the explicit control stack. That's the sort of version 11. There's over 300,000 lines of C++ in the explicit control stack of version 11, and there's basically none of that in version 12.
Yeah, and just because there's no lines of code doesn't mean that it's not controllable. It's still like quite controllable on what you want by just adding data. Now you have to program with data instead of programming with code.
Yeah, data curation.
Yeah.
And then whenever we find that there's something, say if the car doesn't perform perfectly, we give it more examples of what it should do in that situation, and updates the weights, and then it works.
Yeah, and also we have labelers cleaning and making sure that all the data that goes in is like the good driving data, not like the bad drivers from the world. There are bad drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. The quality of the data is very important. So, large amounts of mediocre data do not improve driving.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite actually.
Yeah, it makes it worse. So, that's why the data curation is actually quite difficult. And I should say there is quite a bit of software around what data, so selecting what data to train the system with.
Yeah.
So
the software that runs in the car is minimal, but the software in the back end to train is like much larger and much more sophisticated.
Yeah, exactly. So we do use like normal software for C++ basically for Python for deciding what data to select from the fleet, and then figuring out what is the high quality data versus the pretty good data.
Yeah, and once we have a model, we also ship those models in shadow mode to the cars, and then every time it disagrees with what the user did,
Yeah, exactly.
then you can get the data back, and then kind of that is more valuable than just collecting random data.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we feel good about actually having a very rapid virtuous cycle where when there is an intervention in the fleet, that intervention automatically being uploaded to training, being integrated with training, and then updating really just the weights. So it's not the binary that's changing, it's the weights. Or not the execution binary, it's just really for the weights. Yeah. So I have not intervened once, and the drive has been butter smooth. Again, being somewhat repetitive, we're repetitive about being repetitive, in fact, but we have not programmed in the concept of traffic lights. So there's not like, this is a red light, this is a green light, and this is the traffic light position. We have that in the normal stack, but we do not have that in V12. This is just video training. Like I said, nothing but neural nets. And yet it knows which light applies to it, and it stops at a red light, accelerates at a green light. Now, one of the sort of maybe slightly funny challenges we've had is that since the car is being trained on what humans do, humans almost never stop fully at a stop street. So when they get to a stop sign, humans actually almost never go to 0 miles an hour. They may think they did, but usually they're doing at least a few miles an hour at a stop, coming up to a stop street. Sometimes, people go faster than that, but the regulators are they're really quite insistent that we go to come to a complete stop at stop signs. And when we looked at the data, only 5% of the time do humans actually stop fully.
Even lower than that.
Oh,
like 0.5%.
0.5%?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so
It's extremely
basically,
rare.
people almost never fully stop at stop signs. So we had to.
Even if you look at those data, it's like a lot of them come to a stop and they get on their phone or something. It's not just regular people doing the stops.
Yeah, and they might like semi-stop and then move a little bit and that kind of thing. So we had to poll the fleet for rare examples that less than 1% of the time when people actually come to a full stop, and artificially train the system to stop at stop signs at the insistence of the regulators. Intervention. Sorry. Okay, so that's our first intervention because the car should be going straight.
Yeah,
so
this model has small regression in the traffic lights. We just have to oversample the traffic lights. Yeah.
Okay. So, that's why we've not released it to the public yet. So an intervention at this traffic light. That's the first intervention in the whole drive. So for that intervention that we just had, the solution is essentially to feed the network a bunch more video of traffic lights. So that was a controlled left controlled left turn, where there was a green light for the left turn, but not a green light to go straight. And so we'll feed it a bunch of video of control left turns, and then it'll work. So it's gotten itself into the left turn lane. Again, we've never programmed in the notion of a turn lane or anything like that.
Or even a lane.
We doesn't even know what we've never. There's no line that says there's no line of code about traffic lanes at all. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. So the car just pulled over to the side of the road, and
the passenger should get off.
And parked. So it knows at the end of its destination, based on the video that's received, that at the end of the destination, you pull over to the side and park.
Yeah,
and
it also gets the exact pin location in addition to the navigation route. So, the pin is close. It's a good spot here. Puts over here, but in big parking lots where there might not be any map, it should just go as close to the pin as possible.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, even without any route or anything like that.
Yeah, and in fact, in sort of robotaxi world, it would actually just, probably perhaps know what you look like and just literally look for you.
Yeah. If you have a picture or something, you can just look for
exactly.
you.
It's like if you're signed up and it's like, just say, you don't have to, but if you want the car to literally find you, you just have to send it a picture of you, and it will look for you and wait for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can also say, drop me off at the Starbucks or something.
Yeah.
It should drop you off at the building's entrance as close to Starbucks as possible, as opposed to somewhere random,
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, how does it react to low visibility conditions is one of the questions.
Yeah,
like at night and stuff, I suppose, or rain and snow.
I think it works as we would expect it to. It slows down in rain and then drives at lower speed. And for occluded intersections, it kind of crawls forward and then checks, if there are vehicles coming. That's one of the areas that we're trying to, improve even more than just doing it right now.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we definitely we need training from all around the world is that the weather in California is amazing, and it's as the song goes, basically never rains in California. It's sunny and nice almost all the time.
And the drivers are pretty nice too.
To drive here are quite polite. So
we need some aggressive drivers and also pedestrians.
Yeah, exactly. We need situations where there's a parade or a crowded situation or whatever. A lot of pedestrians for whatever reason.
Yeah, we want to be safe but also confident and be competent. We don't want to be too skittish and hit the brakes all the time.
Yeah,
if it's unnecessary.
Yeah, but it's winter basically in New Zealand, and so we have like the
Yeah, snow day,
snowy conditions there that we can train in. Bicyclist, it's a little tight. That's okay. Yeah, it is very conservative with bicyclists and pedestrians generally. So. Yeah, okay. So this is a tricky one. So this is turning left onto Middlefield in Palo Alto where visibility is not great. So it's like
both sides.
Yeah, cars coming from both sides at pretty high speeds. But did it? Yeah, no problem. Great. Yeah, so V12 will be, I would say, actually smarts on an ASS.
Yeah. And even the set speed is just like set to some max value. Like
yeah, exactly. It's like currently set to 85, but it's ignoring the set speed. It's driving at what would be intuitively the right speed for people to drive at.
Yeah, you did a lane change to get into the faster lane.
Exactly. So there's 2 lanes here. There's a lot more cars in that lane, fewer cars in this lane, and it's going straight, so it picked the lane with the fewest cars.
That was amazing to watch, and YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview, watch this one first. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.